It's time to run another normal type that I've never ran in Generation 1. Today, we're going to see how fast I can beat the game using only a Kangaskhan. Rules are on screen but also in the description. I'm showing off the TMs and move pool on the side thanks to a piece of software created by Scott called Solodex. If you're not part of his solo running Discord, he has links for you to download software such as this, his overlay, the emulator we all use, the routing tool, and Pokebite. If I remember, I'll leave a link in the description. I had filmed something on the side just showing off this software that I was going to put in this video, but I didn't feel like editing out all the breaths or the fumbled words, so I'll just leave a link in the description to Scott's Supercut channel showing this off. Anyway, let's quickly cover Kangaskhan's stats, and overall they're pretty good. It's a fast physical attacker with 95 HP and 90 speed, with plenty of bulk with 105 HP and 80 defense. The 40 special isn't the best, and you might think that we won't use any special moves because of this. At least that's what I thought going into this. But like most normal types, it gets access to a lot of special moves, like the 2 water moves, the 2 ice moves, the 2 electric moves, and Fire Blast. It also has some nice physical options like Body Slam, Earthquake, Rock Slide, just to name a few. And it does get a move that badge boosts it, but unfortunately, it's one of the worst moves in the game in Rage. This move is different in later generations, but in Generation 1, once you select it, you're locked into it until the battle is over. Every time the user is damaged by an attack, its Rage will build and its attack will increase by 1 stage. And considering Kangaskhan's best stat is its attack stat, that's good, right? Not exactly. Rage overall is a trash move, but it is going to have some use in this early game and is going to be key for defeating Brock. So let's go ahead and jump straight to Viridian Forest. In the forest, I'm going to be fighting the first bug catcher you come across, skipping the second, and fighting the mandatory one at the end. We're going to be saving that second bug catcher for a little later, because as previously mentioned, the first gym leader is Brock, and we only have normal type moves, so we're going to have to level up. But we're not going to have to level up as much as you might think. In fact, we're only going to need level 12 for Brock. Well, I should say level 12 and some change. And that takes us to the next part of this run, Pewter City, where we get to do some good old blackout grinding. I can fight the junior trainer in Brock's gym over and over again, defeating the Diglett and then getting knocked out by the Sandshrew. It helps when the Diglett deals a lot of damage to you like in this first battle, where I almost lose to it. You also might have noticed that I was walking out of the Pewter City Mart before entering the gym, and if you saw the Snorlax run, you might have an idea of what's coming. I'm only able to sustain the blackout grind until level 10, and by the time I knock out the Sandshrew, Kangaskhan reaches level 11, and that's okay because we saved 2 trainers just for this, like this first bug catcher I skipped earlier. Unfortunately, by the time I knock out his final Weedle, Kangaskhan is on the brink of level 12, and that's where our good buddy the Rival comes in. We can backtrack to Viridian City in Route 22 and take him on, and while I do level up to 12 after knocking out his lead Pidgey, there are 2 things I want to say in this battle. The first, I think I got pretty lucky that I didn't miss a Comet Punch after getting hit with Sand Attack. And the second, I love Kangaskhan's Gen 2 back sprite here, holding its baby in its arms to protect it. If you're wondering about the Gen 2 color palette, I've covered this in other videos, but it's a patch I use for the Gen 1 games. I just think it looks better. Don't at me. After defeating the Rival, I head back into Viridian Forest to knock out some wild Pokemon, so I level up after knocking out Geodude. Now, let's face Brock. I have a few things to say about Brock. First, if this was Pokemon Yellow, you could fight him at level 10, I believe. I haven't watched that Scott video where he compared Kangaskhan in Red and Blue and Yellow since its release, which I feel like was, what, 3 years ago now? Second, in Yellow, Geodude only has Tackle, so it can't boost its defense with Defense Curl, and since it can only use Tackle, it can also miss. You could theoretically max out Kangaskhan's Rage counter going into Onix, but that's a bad idea for a few reasons. The strategy for red and blue, just go for Comet Punch to knock out the Geodude. Have some left over, which I have about half, as I level up to 13 over a damage rounding threshold for Onix. Since I have some leftover Comet Punches, I just burn them all up against Onix before going for Rage, and I get some nice luck with Onix failing Screeches until the very end of the battle and only going for Bide twice. But I have 18 HP left over by the time I knock out the overgrown Rock Snake, and that's a well-earned Boulder Badge. There's no problems on Route 3, so we're going to jump ahead to Mount Moon. There is the TM for Water Gun, which you could grab at the beginning of the cave, but I skip this. Instead, I'm going to grab the Rare Candy and the TM for Mega Punch. I think it's only worth grabbing Water Gun if you were going to take an additional optional battle, and only if that optional battle was against the Hiker on the first floor. And aside from just saying that Kangaskhan has trash special, I'll dive into it a little bit later as to why I skipped Water Gun. I opted for no optional battles in Mount Moon, and we're going to be level 16 reaching Cerulean City. I make sure to grab the Dome Fossil, and after healing up at the Pokemon Center, I opt to take on the rival instead of Misty first. And although Pidgeotto gets me down to nearly half health, I don't get hit with Sand Attack, so I'll take that as a win. And from here, the rest of the rival's Pokemon don't pose a threat. Mega Punch can just 1 or 2 shot the rest of his team. And if you didn't catch it, after defeating the rival, Kangaskhan reached level 18 above a damage rounding threshold. And with Stab Mega Punch on my moveset, I have all I need to take on Misty. Staryu is first. Mega Punch gets a critical hit to one-shot it. That probably mattered. Her ace Starmie is next. It's faster, and its opening Water Gun gets a massive critical hit. Had that been Bubble Beam, that probably would have been a reset. Mega Punch does around a third. Misty then uses an X-Defend as I bring it down to yellow health. My luck continues with Starmie missing a tackle as Mega Punch leaves it on a sliver. And while Starmie hits its next tackle, it doesn't do nearly enough, and Mega Punch continues its spree of hitting to knock it out, winning me the Cascade Badge. But more importantly, TM11, Bubble Beam, and this is why I skipped Water Gun. I knew I would be deleting it as soon as I got this move, so I just cut it out altogether, saving time. When I first sat down to do this run, I briefly remembered that some Kangaskhan runs in the past. The one that most recently came to mind was J-Rose's, since he released one like 2 or 3 months ago. How at some point it seemed like everybody was using a special move, and I looked at the moveset and thought to myself, you get access to Earthquake, Rock Slide, Body Slam, Mimic, and if you want to be that guy, Double Team. Granted, every Pokemon learns Double Team, but why would you ever need a special move? But they do have their places in this run, one of those being Nugget Bridge for the very few rock Pokemon you come across. And in this playthrough, I opted not to face the Elixir Hiker, instead just facing the Hiker with one lone Onix. Between Bubble Beam, Rage, Comet Punch, and Mega Punch, you have more than enough PP for this section of the game, so let's go ahead and jump to the SSN. I just mentioned it like a minute ago, but there's the TM for Body Slam here, which I'm going to grab. We're going to be skipping the Gentleman Candy today and jumping straight into Rival 3. And with the addition of Body Slam and its increased power and accuracy, I get one-shots across the board except for the Wartortle, but it doesn't have any strong water moves to hit me with at this point in the game. And as we jump to Lieutenant Surge, it's the same difficulty level as Rival 3. While Body Slam one-shots his first 2 Pokemon, it doesn't one-shot his ace Raichu, but Surge just goes for an X-Speed followed by the weaker Thunder Shock, and that's a quick 3 badges for Kangaskhan. We get yet another special move as a prize for this one in Thunderbolt, and you might think teaching Thunderbolt is better for the Slowpokes in Rock Tunnel, and as something to use against the rival's Wartortle and soon-to-be Blastoise going forward, but I disagree. And before I touch on that, as we enter Rock Tunnel, we have more use for Bubble Beam coming up. It's a good option for this first Pokemaniac's Cubone, along with the self-destructing Hiker looming, and while those battles play in the background, I'm going to jump back to what I was saying before about Thunderbolt. While Slowpoke does have a lower special stat versus its defense, 40 versus 65. Kangaskhan also has a low special stat, matching that 40, but a tremendous attack stat. But other than the stats, I don't want to teach it just yet because of other TMs we have coming up, and I don't want to have to restrict myself and have to delete a move before I want to, because when it comes to Bubble Beam, we actually aren't going to be deleting it just yet. There's still use for it against Giovanni in the Rocket Game Corner against his 2 rock types, along with the Rocket Grunts who guard his chamber that have ground types on their team. And while it is something I could use for Pokemon Tower, along with Thunderbolt, we're going to be getting access to something better. And no, it isn't Ice Beam if you're thinking that. We're going to be skipping that move today. The move I'm talking about does come from Celadon, but I'm not going to grab it just yet. Instead, I'm going to head through the Rocket Hideout. I wanted to grab some extra items to sell for vitamins, and you might be thinking, to buy calciums? And the answer is no. I have to defeat Giovanni first before all of that, but I have Bubble Beam as previously mentioned. Despite having 40 base special, rock types also have trash special, and our trash special comes out on top in this trash on trash matchup. My Kangaskhan is superior in the mirror match against his, as 2 body slams take it out. Once I make my way to the department store, I'm going to get all 3 TMs from the little girl. I'm going to sell Ice Beam and Try Attack, but Rock Slide is going to be my move of choice for Pokemon Tower. It hits ghosts and uses our higher physical attack stat, and I'm going to be boosting our attack stat further after purchasing 4 proteins from the department store. I make sure to grab the HM for Fly, open up the way to Saffron, teach Rock Slide in the place of Bite, and face the Pokemon Tower rival. Like with the last few rival battles, he just isn't a challenge. Rock Slide is so much better than using a special move against these Ghastlies. You'd probably have to 3 or 4 shot them with a move like Thunderbolt or Ice Beam. After Pokemon Tower, I'm going to make a quick pit stop to Silphco to give Kangaskhan another moveset upgrade. I'm going to head to the 10th floor, defeat the Rocket Grunt with a single Machoke, and grab the Carbos, Rare Candy, and TM26 Earthquake. My waypoint is already set to Celadon, and from here, I can hop on my bike, head west, catch the Snorlax because I've started making my HM users guaranteed catches, and head to Cycling Road towards Fuchsia. I do pick up a few optional battles here just to get Kangaskhan above a damage rounding threshold for Koga's gym. The battles are quick thanks to Earthquake, but I could have probably skipped them. I do make sure to grab the hidden rare candy on Cycling Road. Once I arrive in Fuchsia, I quickly blitz through the Safari Zone. I skip items like the full restore and the Carbos, but I do pick up the protein because it was in my direct path. I keep a close eye on Pokebite when doing these runs, and I saw I could afford another protein before reaching the threshold. After that's all done, I head straight to the gym. The psychic types that stand between me and Koga don't stand a chance against the wide range of physical moves I have, and with Earthquake on my moveset, I don't expect Koga to put up much of a fight. But Koga had something to say about that. Because his Pokemon are rather bulky, and because I'm only level 36, but I do hit level 37 after the first coughing, I have to 2-shot them. This gives them the opportunity to hit me with something like Smokescreen or Setup Minimize like the Muck does, or even poison me before I make it to the Wheezing. And while I do make it to Wheezing, Earthquake looks like it's going to be a 3-shot, and it just blows up right away. And thanks to a critical hit, it 100-0s Kangaskhan for the first reset of the run. I make it back to Wheezing in the next battle. Earthquake gets a better roll doing half as it poisons me with Toxic, and luck is on my side as my next Earthquake gets a critical hit, finishing the Toxic Ball of Gas for the Soul Badge. I decided after beating Koga to head down to Cinnabar. Beating Blaine will give me a boost to my special, which is nice, and we still have to battle Erica, who I could go beat at any time. There are a few things to touch on in Cinnabar Mansion. The first, because I'm only level 38, I get encounters in the basement, and I actually run into Magmar, which I thought was the rare encounter for this area, but looking it up on Cerebi, it's a 10% encounter rate, with Wheezing being the rare at 1%. Huh, the more you know. Second, I'm going to pick up Blizzard. I skipped Ice Beam knowing I was going to grab this TM. Blizzard is only useful for 2 battles later in the run. I'm sure you can guess who. It shouldn't be that hard to figure out. But with business wrapped up in the mansion, let's go ahead and take on Blaine. Even though I'm only level 38, I surprisingly outspeed all of Blaine's Pokemon, and as you would expect, Earthquake just wrecks them. The Arcanine survives one, which doesn't surprise me since it is 9 levels higher, but it just goes for Roar instead of punishing me with something like a critical hit Fire Blast. We take those, though. You probably thought I was going to go straight to Erica. Not just yet. She's going to be the last gym leader we face before Giovanni. Instead, I head to Silphco and face the rival. There are really only a few concerns here. The first, my opening Rock Slide doesn't one-shot Pidgeot, which gives it a window to use Sand Attack, but it doesn't, choosing Wing Attack instead. The second is Execute. This thing actually doesn't have any attacking moves. It has Hypnosis, Reflect, Leech Seed, and Stun Spore. Just a trolley set. I don't want to see the last two for obvious reasons. And I don't want to see Hypnosis either because it just wastes time. And I see the best outcome, Reflect. The final concern is Blastoise, and he's not really a concern, more so an annoyance. I went with my rival choosing Blastoise because it has the highest physical defense of the starters. It doesn't have any moves that can hit me hard until the rival battle before the league. It does have Withdraw, boosting that physical defense further and prolonging the battle. And for some reason I switched to Earthquake after my first Body Slam paralyzes it. Overall though, this battle isn't tough, we win easily. We're going to blitz through the next few major battles, starting with Giovanni. He gets a brief mention, that is all. Sabrina surprisingly beat me, and it starts with Mr. Mime. I failed to one-shot it with Earthquake, which again, I don't know why I'm not just using Body Slam. It retaliates with Confusion, which immediately confuses me. I only hit myself once and then it wastes some time with Double Slap, but I'm able to get by it and Venomoth. But Confusion strikes again. I hit myself against Alakazam, and it responds with a Psybeam that gets a critical hit, taking me out for the second reset of the run. In the next battle, I make it back to Alakazam, not confused and at full health, and right on cue, I use Earthquake over Body Slam again. But thankfully I'm not punished as it just goes for Reflect, and that's Sabrina defeated. Erica, we outlevel her team by quite a bit. 3 one-shots, nothing else to say. But I do have one thing to mention before jumping into the Giovanni battle. I could have saved some time here. I'm going to battle the Cool Trainer with a Nidorino and Nidoking prior. This is going to bring Kangaskhan from level 44 to level 45 above a damage rounding threshold. Kangaskhan doesn't need that for Giovanni, and it's one of those things I did on the fly, but just one of those things you watch back afterwards and go, man, I shouldn't have done that. As far as the 8th gym leader goes though, you guys already know that unless this is Pokemon Yellow, Giovanni is an absolute joke. I've actually kept Bubble Beam on my set just for his Rhyhorn and Rhydon, and while his final 3 Pokemon aren't one-shots, as I've said before, this is Pokemon Blue. His Pokemon's movesets are trash, and they can't do anything to put Kangaskhan in any significant danger. This brings us to the Rival 6 battle, and this is a spot I thought I would need candies for a bit of a power spike, but everyone who has ran Kangaskhan prior and talks about how good it is, I'm seeing it firsthand for myself now. Pidgeot no longer has Sand Attack, which is a godsend, so I don't need to worry about my accuracy being ruined when Rock Slide has to 2-shot it. Rhyhorn and Growlithe, I don't need to talk about them, but once again, I need to bring up Execute. This thing has an attacking move again in Solar Beam. It also has Poison Powder, Leech Seed, and Stun Spore. I prefer to see Solar Beam since it's a 2-turn attack after I fail to one-shot it, but we get Poison Powder. I do prefer to see that over Leech Seed, but it still puts us on a timer, and Alakazam is faster, and it has Stab Psychic and a high crit rate that would ruin our day, but the rival throws. We get a turn 1 recover as Body Slam fails to one-shot the Frail Psychic type, but then the rival uses a retroactive potion, letting us move on to Blastoise. This thing now has its strongest water move in Hydro Pump, but like in the Silphco battle, we paralyze it after our first Body Slam, and instead of choosing Hydro Pump, it goes for Bite, and after 2 more Body Slams, the tanky turtle falls. In Victory Road, I skipped the Boulder Candy, but I should have grabbed it because I'm going to pick up one optional battle against the Chansey Cool Trainer to get Kangaskhan from level 47 to 48. Grabbing the candy would have been quicker than taking on an extra battle, but hey, live and learn. Once I arrive to the league, I'm going to pop 7 candies to go from level 48 to 55, along with teaching the TM for Thunderbolt over Bubble Beam before we face Lorelei. Now, let's take on the league. Lorelei is first. I was expecting Dugong to go for rest turn 1, so I go for Thunderbolt, which does about a quarter but inflicts paralysis on the sea lion, and it's fully paralyzed. I can take it out with Body Slam and move on to Cloyster. I taught Thunderbolt just for this thing, which does half to the tanky clam, as it confuses me with Supersonic. While I don't hit myself in confusion and knock it out, things fall apart against Slowbro. I hit myself twice in confusion as Slowbro boosts its special with Amnesia and chips me down with Water Gun while also lowering my attack with a Growl, and I have 22 HP remaining by the time I knock it out and make it to Jinx. Because of that Growl, I don't one-shot it with a super effective Rock Slide, but we get a retroactive Super Potion, and while I do make it to Lapras, unless we get great paralysis luck, which we don't, we lose. In the next battle, my opening Thunderbolt on Cloyster gets a massive critical hit, leaving it on a sliver, and we get a retroactive Super Potion. And the crits continue against Slowbro. I accidentally clicked Thunderbolt, meaning to go for Body Slam, but after my Thunderbolt gets a critical hit and I don't see Growl in retaliation, I keep rolling with it. With my attack stat intact as well, I can one-shot the Jinx and do well over half to Lapras with Body Slam. My heart did stop for a second as it fired off a Blizzard doing massive damage, but no freeze, no crit, we move on. Which brings us to Bruno, and I'll admit, I was worried about this one. Hitmonlee and its high jump kick hits hard. Hitmonchan is going to have the chance to hit me with one of the elemental punches, because I don't want to risk using Body Slam. That thing has hit me with counter on more than one occasion. But today we see Thunder Punch from the punching Pokemon, which doesn't paralyze, thankfully. I was surprised though when Body Slam failed to one-shot the frail fighting type Hitmonlee. Even though I do inflict paralysis, I was expecting to see a high jump kick to the face to give me another reset, but we see an X-Defend, and the only Pokemon left that's a concern is his Machamp. I do have to 3-shot it with Body Slam, which gives it opportunity to go for submission. Its only damage dealing move outside of Fissure, which is a one-hit KO move, but we see its other 2 moves instead in Leer and Focus Energy. This brings us to Agatha, our easiest matchup in the league. Just leave your cursor on Earthquake and switch things up for Golbat. Because Body Slam doesn't one-shot it, it does use Haze, which prevents me from one-shotting her Arbok and probably prevented the outspeed on the final Gengar. If you didn't know, Haze removes the 12.5% boost you get from your badges in battle, on top of any boosts you may have set up. But yeah, that's all she wrote for Agatha. This brings us to Lance. I'm not going to show it, but I did have one reset to him. I forgot to teach Blizzard before the battle, and the Dragonairs ruined my day critting Slam. This second battle starts in the worst possible way with me missing Rock Slide, but instead of Hydro Pump, which was doing about half to Kangaskhan, Gyarados chooses Dragon Rage, and it helps me out on the next turn going for Leer as well, which will badge boost me just a tiny bit, but also make the Aerodactyl and Dragonairs hit just a little bit harder. One of Blizzard's purposes is for Lance's Dragons. While it, Body Slam, and Earthquake 2-shot his remaining Pokemon, although I'm not sure about Dragonite because spoilers, I get a crit to one-shot it with Blizzard. Blizzard does significantly more damage on one use than the other moves. It can also miss, which is a bit unfortunate, which is why I did pick up the PP ups in Celadon and the Rocket Hideout just for this. You always have to worry about not one-shotting Lance's Pokemon, especially Aerodactyl, because it has Hyper Beam, and if it crits, it'll almost always one-shot you. It also has Supersonic, which is an annoyance. Today we see a critical hit takedown from it, which Kangaskhan hangs on from, but I feel like I've talked enough about Lance though. Let's face the champion. Two quick things I want to mention. The first, I had one rare candy left over in my bag to get Kangaskhan to level 60 above a damage rounding threshold. The second, I forgot to use an elixir before this battle, so I only have 2 uses of Blizzard, which isn't terrible. I use one on Pidgeot here, and I have a choice between Exeggutor and Rhydon for my final one, and I'm going to choose Rhydon because I feel like it wouldn't do anything to Exeggutor with its massive special stat. Pidgeot does chip me down some with Wing Attack as I miss miss a rock slide before hitting my second to take out his lead, moving on to Alakazam. Kangaskhan is faster, so no worry of getting hit with Psychic today as Body Slam one-shots it. Rhydon is next and it survives Blizzard, which doesn't shock me. We both have Trash Special. It fails a Tail Whip, which I would have liked for some badge boosting purposes, but I can finish it with an Earthquake before also two-shotting Arcanine, who also fails a Leer, and again, badge boost would have been nice. And now it's time to face Exeggutor, and we get some great luck with our opening Body Slam getting a massive critical hit. It chooses Stomp instead of Hypnosis. We love to see that. I can take it out, level up, and move on to Blastoise. And the champion, he falls apart here. Body Slam is going to 3-shot. We inflict paralysis with our first use as Blastoise can't move, and turn 2, we get Withdraw. And with that, Kangaskhan has done it. Kangaskhan finishes the game at level 61, with a final in-game time of 2 hours and 48 minutes. And I know there are faster runs out there, and the majority of the runs I've seen have been done in yellow over on the solo running Discord, but I'm proud of this time. Also do keep in mind, I don't do the Rocket Hideout skip, so my times are going to be slightly higher, but hey, we all have our own rules. As long as you're upfront about your rules and clearly communicating them to your viewers or whomever so they aren't scratching their head wondering about something, then play as you please. Before I bring up my tier list though, I'm going to clearly communicate something to you, the viewers. If you didn't see my Snorlax video from a few weeks ago, I mentioned how this tier list has spoilers of redos of older runs I've redone over the last year and some change. This is your one chance to click off the video now if you don't want spoilers. And if you do, then hey, thanks for watching. I appreciate you and I'll see you in my next one. For everybody else or for folks who didn't listen, you've been warned. Here it is. With its final in-game time, Kangaskhan finds itself in the same tier as Snorlax, the B tier. As far as who will be ranked ahead of the other, you could look at it a few ways. Kangaskhan had a better real time, 44 minutes and 26 seconds versus Snorlax's 45 minutes and 17 second time. Snorlax was also at a lower level, 55 versus 61. You could go with that. Personally, I just put Kangaskhan at the top of the B tier because it was the easiest way to put it on the document, but I figured someone would probably ask, so there's my explanation. As always, thank you for the continued support on the channel. I've got more Vanilla Generation 1 runs coming, and I've been having a lot of fun with them lately, along with our Gen 1 Nuzlocke series. Although with Fire Red and Leaf Green re-releasing for the Switch, I wouldn't mind doing some Nuzlockes in those once we wrap up the remaining typings. Special shout out to my channel members, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Take care, everybody.